Hey everyone, French Tutor here. Aero Games officially released Cartethyia's kit. So I want to kind of break it down briefly so that you understand the character. So let's talk about her builds and her teams, and most importantly, if we need Ciaccona or not, and if this is the right character for you. So yeah, let's get right into it. Okay, so let's look at Cartethyia's combat roles first. So she's going to be a main DPS, and then she's going to utilize Aero Erosion. Yes, she'll be able to apply her own. She also provides damage amplification with her outro skill, which I'll show you later, and some traction, like able to group enemies together. Okay, so for her kit, they released a summarized version and a more detailed version. I'm gonna kind of switch back and forth between them to explain more things. So she's going to have a 4-hit basic attack sequence, and basic attack 4 will inflict 1 stack of Aero Erosion, and basic attack 4 is going to summon Sword Shadow 2. So you'll kind of notice these like shadow swords on the floor like this. Every time she does an attack, you'll see some swords on the field. So we need to summon those to provide buffs for your liberation mode, and I'll explain all that later. Basically, you know, we saw this in the trailer and you've seen her use this plenty of times. Like she needs these 3 swords pretty much. These also have special names, but for the simplicity of this video, I'm going to just call them 1, 2, 3. So for heavy attack, she's going to deal arrow damage and then summon Sword Shadow 1. And this is considered basic attack damage. So her intro skill also can summon Sword Shadow 1. So like if you're not using your intro skill, you would need to use your heavy attack to summon Sword Shadow 1 pretty much. So while we're talking about intro skill, it inflicts 2 stacks of Aero Erosion. And then it says that you can also skip to your basic attack 2 after using it. And finally, for her resonance skill, she's going to attack, inflict Aero Erosion also. And this resonance skill is considered basic attack damage. And then lastly, we're going to use Cartethyia's mid-air attack to recall all the sword shadows. And that way you can use those buffs in her liberation mode. So this is something you must do with her kit. And this damage is considered Aero Erosion damage. So I know there's a lot of damage types we went through, but don't worry too much about it. They're just trying to balance her kit so that when you use like someone that can enhance basic attack damage, like you can do more damage. Like, cause if everything was Aero Erosion damage, then you need Ciaccona, right? So they're just kind of balancing everything out. So that's what they're doing here. Okay, so let's visually look at her kit for a second. Her basic attack 1 and 2 are gonna be like these 2 slashes like this, right? And then basic attack 3, she kind of has this like force field where she goes from left to right. And then in the basic attack 4, like a force field kind of rains down like that. And that's the one that applies like Aero Erosion and summons Sword Shadow 2. Okay, and for her heavy attack, she's going to summon like a sphere of energy like this. And that's gonna summon Sword Shadow 1. Her resonance skill, she's going to have all these like sword shadows kind of rain down like this in a large area. And then you're going to summon Sword Shadow 3. Now after you're done summoning all the sword shadows, you want to recall them to get all the 3 buffs, right? So you need to use a mid-air attack and it looks like this. So your basic rotation as Cartethyia is going to be your intro skill to basic attack 2 to basic attack 4, followed by your resonance skill to a mid-air attack. So basically as Cartethyia, you want to apply Aero Erosion and then you want to summon these sword shadows and then recall them so that you can buff up Fleurdelys in your liberation mode. But if you notice here, Cartethyia is actually applying 5 stacks of Aero Erosion, but enemies can usually only take 3 stacks of Aero Erosion. So in the end, you need Aero Rover's outro skill to make it up to 6 stacks max. Okay, now let's talk about her liberation mode. So once you transform into Fleurdelys, so you're going to reduce your HP to 50% of your max HP. So let's say you have 50,000 HP, you're going to go to 25,000 HP. But when your HP is below 50%, you're not going to use any HP cost. So Fleurdelys doesn't use any special like mechanic where if you have less HP, you do more damage. It doesn't state anywhere in her kit like that. So you don't have to worry about like having less HP to do more damage or anything like that. And the most important clue to show that she does scale off from HP is from her signature weapon. So it has a main stat of 72.2 HP, and then in her weapon skill, max HP is increased. So without reading all of this, basically you're going to enhance all your attacks into like Fleurdelys' attacks, right? They all change. So all of Fleurdelys' attacks restore conviction. So that's going to be your Forte gauge, your Forte circuit. So basically what you want to do is you want to keep attacking a lot, and then you need to reach 120 points, like a full Forte gauge. So you want to do this within 12 seconds because that's how long the manifest state lasts. And basically in this state, this is where you can keep all your sword shadow buffs. So you just want to fill up your Forte gauge as fast as you can so that you can keep all your buffs. And then once your Forte gauge is finally full, you can use the second part of your Resonance Liberation. So it's gonna be pretty much just like a really strong attack. And then a few things happen here. So it's going to empty out your Forte gauge, and then you're going to end that manifest state. So your sword shadow buffs will go away. And then it's going to restore back 50% of your max HP again. Also, this is considered arrow damage, not arrow erosion damage, so that's good news. So what happens now is all stacks of arrow erosion is removed. This is very important later, I'll explain. But each stack remove amplifies the damage taken by the targets by 20% up to 5 stacks. So now you can do up to 100% more damage if you have 5 stacks, right? And again, you can only have 3 without Aero Rover. Once you have Aero Rover on the team, you can have up to 6 stacks. So that's one thing to keep in mind. But on that note, some of Fleurdelys' attacks actually reduce the arrow erosion stack on target hit by 1. So you're reducing 1 stack of arrow erosion on certain attacks. And that doesn't sound too good when we're trying to use our Liberation Part 2 to do a lot of damage, right? Okay, and let's just look at her attacks briefly in this mode. Basically, she transforms like this, and this is where you're going to reduce your HP by 50% of your max HP. Okay, and let's just look at her liberation attacks briefly. Yeah, they look way different from Cartethyia attacks. A lot going on. I don't want to explain everything and go too detailed in this video, but pretty much like these attacks, you just do all of these and try to get a full Forte gauge. And then once you have your full Forte gauge, you'll use the second part of your liberation, and it looks like this. It's this like ultimate attack right here, and it does a lot of damage. So one interesting thing is that if you don't have a full Forte gauge, you can press your Resonance Liberation again, and then you can transform back into Cartethyia. So probably this is a way to just like apply more arrow erosion for yourself, or just to change back to her. But also that 12-second manifest state also pauses, and then you can switch back to Fleurdelys once you're done with Cartethyia. So that's worth noting here. Okay, and I do want to talk about the Sword Shadow buffs. I don't know why they're going in reverse order. This is Sword Shadow 3, 2, 1. Her enhanced basic attack 4 will generate a force field, and it's going to stagnate the target, so it's gonna like kind of stop them or slow down. Her resistance to interruption increases. Sword Shadow 2 buff, arrow erosion damage is amplified by 50%, and the damage interval is decreased by 50%. Okay, so a pretty good amount of damage here. I think Sword Shadow 1's buff is a little bit confusing, honestly. So when you use these certain attacks, it raises the arrow erosion stacks on all nearby targets to the highest count among the targets. So I don't know exactly what this means, to be honest with you. I don't know if it inflicts any arrow erosion damage, but it seems like it's gonna just raise like the max amount. So let's say without Aero Rover, 3 stacks, and then with Aero Rover, 6 stacks. But if this just raises the max amount, yeah, it seems like you do have to swap out if you don't have like Ciaccona to apply arrow erosion. But I'm just entirely not sure about this one, I'm sorry. I have to test her out tomorrow. So I want to go over her outro skills and inherent skills while talking about her best teammates, Ciaccona and Aero Rover. I think this can kill 2 birds with 1 stone in this section. So these are the important clues to tell you which teammates you need and like how to build those teammates. So with this, we have to know that this is all designed for Ciaccona and Aero Rover, honestly. Okay, so her outro skill. Arrow damage dealt by her other party members are going to be amplified if they're affected by negative statuses by 17.5% for 20 seconds. Now Cartethyia is boosting like your party members' damage, so that's crazy, right? So right, we're going to use Aero Rover, they're going to dish a good amount of damage, and Ciaccona is also a good damage dealer too. But without Ciaccona, basically you would probably use a second resonator that applies some negative statuses, and then you can just convert it later, right? you can utilize this buff pretty well. And to anyone who's worried about Aero Rover's damage, that is a myth. We have not gotten them at S6 and R5 yet on their weapon. And plus, we're going to get now this damage from this outro skill. So don't worry about Aero Rover's damage. And please use the new Sonata set that is coming out. Use the same Sonata set as Cartethyia, which gives more damage, okay? Okay, so for her first inherent skill, so the healing received by all resonators except Cartethyia and Fleurdelys is increased by 20%, and the resistance to interruption is enhanced. If Aero Rover is in the team, they additionally restore 25 wind strings upon casting Omega Storm. Now this is a lot to take in, because why is her first inherent skill just made for being with Rover, right? A lot of people were worried about Rover's healing. It was always sufficient, it's always enough, you know, because even his like enhanced mid-air attacks are like healed, right? But now additionally, you can heal 20% more to your other teammates and Aero Rover. So more healing, no need for rejuvenating glow set. I guarantee you, you do not need it. You'll be totally fine without it. Okay, and lastly, one more very important thing. Targets with 1 to 3 stacks of Aero Erosion take 30% more damage. Okay, so we definitely need to have these stacks of Aero Erosion. But targets with more than 3 stacks additionally take 10% more damage. And this can stack up to 3 times. So you can add 30% more damage and then 60% max additional damage. So basically this is saying you need Aero Rover. Without Aero Rover, you can do 30% more damage. With Aero Rover, you can do 60%. So if we like take all of this into account, like she's like inseparable with Rover. Okay, now I think this is the perfect segue to talk about this. Do we need Ciaccona for Cartethyia? I think the answer is Cartethyia can function without Ciaccona. But Cartethyia teams are heavily focused on damage. Team damage together, everyone together. Even your healer doing damage. Without Ciaccona, that damage is decreased by a lot. But that's really it. It's just all about damage here, I think. And just like quality of life stuff, just being able to apply Aero Erosion constantly is always good. So without Ciaccona, like you won't be able to utilize this outro skill really well, in my opinion. But here's the slight problem. When you use Liberation Part 2, you're going to remove all stacks of Aero Erosion. So if you have Ciaccona, this is not a problem because as soon as you're done with Fleurdelys, Ciaccona is going to still be singing and applying Aero Erosion. I don't think Cartethyia has time to apply Aero Erosion like before she switches out. I think her resonance skill will be on cooldown, and then you don't want to really do basic attack for just to get some stacks, right? Well, unless you have someone that can apply negative statuses, then you're good, right? So you see, you get even more flexibility here because it's targets with negative statuses. It's not Aero Erosion, right? So this can work for you in the future for probably 5-star characters that can apply negative statuses. So in conclusion, overall team damage is going to be much lower without Ciaccona. But Cartethyia, she's able to apply her own Aero Erosion stacks. A lot of her attacks are based on basic attack damage. So if you have someone that could buff basic attack, that can work too. You can have other teammates that apply negative statuses. So it's not exactly a Zani Phoebe situation in my opinion. So real quick, I want to talk about her Echo builds. Obviously, she's going to use her new set, the Windward Pilgrimage. But most importantly, here's the interesting thing. For her cost 1 Echoes, we're going to go HP percent. Just for some people who might not know, yes, your main stat is HP percent, but there's also a secondary stat these Echoes have, and that is flat HP. And it gives 2,280 flat HP, and that's a lot. That's a huge boost in damage for Cartethyia. So I think we can safely conclude that Cartethyia officially is going to use a 44111 build. 44111, yeah. And then for the 4 cost Echoes, you would go with crit rate or crit damage. So that's probably what it's gonna look like right now, but we will have to see. Since Cartethyia is going to be lacking some arrow damage, it's good to have like Aero Rover's signature weapon. they're going to amplify arrow damage by 10%. So if you have Ciaccona's signature weapon, you're going to reduce arrow resistance by 10%. So all of these add up and help Cartethyia a lot. Not necessary, of course, but at least with Aero Rover, you will have their signature weapon. Alright, thanks for watching today. If you liked the video, please make sure to like and subscribe. I'm going to have my Cartethyia video out in about a week or two maybe, so please keep an eye out for that. If you want to check out any of my character or beginner guides, please check on the left here. Other than that, thank you so much for watching again. Take care now.